For like 100 years, more than 100 years actually, the US dollar wasn't just our money. Nope, it was the heartbeat of the entire global economy.
But now, for the first time really in any of our lifetimes, people are starting to ask this kind of terrifying question. And it's terrifying because the answer, it's not just about charts and numbers. It's about the very foundation of the world we live in.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Whether you're talking about oil coming out of the Middle East or goods being made in factories in Asia, almost every big international deal was done in US dollars. This system didn't just shape how we trade, it's what really locked in America's spot as the global superpower.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the danger the dollar is in today, we've got to rewind a bit. We need to look at how it became the world's anchor to begin with. And you know what? It all comes down to one single powerful idea: trust.
And that really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? What is money anyway? At the end of the day, it's just a shared belief. It's a promise we all make to each other. And for a long, long time, the entire world's promise was the US dollar.
So picture this. World War II is over. The world is just shattered. And more than anything, it needs stability. That's where the Bretton Woods Agreement comes in. It basically said, okay, everyone, the US dollar is now the official reserve currency. And here was the kicker, the most important part. It was backed by real gold. You could literally take $35 and trade it for an ounce of gold. That wasn't just an idea. It was a physical promise the whole world could actually believe in.
But that promise, the very bedrock of that entire system, yeah, it got broken. And the exact moment it happened, well, that's what put us on the exact path we find ourselves on today.
Fast forward to 1971. The U.S. is drowning in debt from the Vietnam War, inflation is taking off, and then President Nixon gets on TV and makes this absolutely shocking announcement: America is cutting the cord. No more converting dollars to gold. Just like that, the promise that held the entire global economy together was gone.
And boom. Overnight, the dollar became something called a fiat currency. All that means is its value wasn't tied to something physical anymore. Instead, it was tied to something a lot more fragile: just simple faith. Faith that the US government knew what it was doing and could manage its money.
But you gotta hand it to them. America played an incredibly smart move next. They went to the big oil countries, like Saudi Arabia, and made a deal. From now on, all oil is bought and sold in US dollars, period. This created what we now call the petrodollar system. And suddenly, if you were any country on Earth and you needed oil, which, let's be honest, was everybody, you had to get your hands on US dollars first. This created this massive, non-stop demand for the dollar and basically cemented America's financial power, even without the gold to back it up. Pretty genius, right?
But that kind of power, the ability to just print the world's money without anything real to back it up, well, it created a really dangerous temptation. It was like having a credit card with no limit.
Let's put this in perspective. Back in 1980, after almost 200 years as a country, the U.S. national debt was still under $1 trillion. I mean, that's a huge number, for sure, but it was manageable.
And today, that number has absolutely exploded. We're talking over $35 trillion. And that's not just a bigger number, you guys. It's a completely different reality. It's a mountain of debt so big it's growing by billions every single day.
So what does that actually mean? Well, here's the part that should really keep you up at night. By next year, the US government is on track to spend more money just paying the interest on its debt than it spends on the entire military. Let me say that again. More money will go to paying off old loans than to the entire national defense budget. That is a wild milestone to hit. And you better believe the rest of the world has been watching all of this go down. They see the debt piling up, they see the money printer going brrr, they see the political chaos, and they've started to think, maybe we should start preparing for a world that doesn't completely depend on the US dollar.
And listen, this isn't some crazy theory anymore. This is happening right now. You've got China buying oil in its own currency. You've got the BRICS countries, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They're talking about a new currency of their own. Heck, even old-school US allies like France and Saudi Arabia are quietly making moves away from the dollar. These aren't little tremors, people. These are major cracks starting to show up in the very foundation of the dollar system.
We've seen this movie before. 100 years ago, the British pound was the king of the world, just like the dollar is today. But then came 2 world wars, a mountain of debt, and poof, it lost its top spot to the US dollar. They say history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. The real question is America even listening to that rhyme?
So, what happens?
What happens if that global trust, the only thing holding this whole system up, finally, completely, just evaporates?
Well, if it happens, it'll probably happen fast. First, you'd see foreign countries panic. They'd start selling off their US bonds like crazy. The dollar's value would absolutely crater. Stock markets would crash. To stop a full-blown panic, the banks, they'd have to slam the doors shut, freeze withdrawals. And then, as the dollar itself becomes basically worthless, the price of everything, food, gas, you name it, would shoot through the roof. That's hyperinflation.
And the warning signs, man, they are just eerily familiar. You look at history, Rome, Spain, Great Britain. What did they all do before they fell? They racked up massive debt. They devalued their money by just creating more of it. And they lost the trust of the world. It's the exact same playbook. History is practically screaming at us right now.
Because at the end of the day, the dollar's value isn't in a bank vault or on a computer screen. It's in our heads. It's a story that we've all agreed to tell each other is true. And what's scary is that for the first time in a very long time, the world is starting to wonder, how does this story end?
So, if this system is really on its last legs, what on earth could replace it? Well, there's already a race to build the answer.
The front runner probably isn't another paper currency. It's digital. We're talking about central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Think of them like government-run cryptocurrencies. China's already got one up and running, with millions of users. The US, Europe, they're all scrambling to build their own. But here's the trade-off, and it is a huge one. You get total convenience, but you could lose all your privacy. I mean, think about it. If every single purchase you make is digital and tracked by the government, what does that mean for your financial freedom? But here's another way to think about it. A collapse isn't just an ending, it's also a reset. It forces us all to remember what has real value. When the financial system gets shaky, you quickly realize what actually matters. And it's not the numbers on a screen. It's things like knowing how to fix things, having a strong community, and being able to rely on yourself.
And that leaves all of us with the ultimate choice, doesn't it? As this era of the dollar winds down, what's next? Are we heading towards a future of total control with programmable money that can be tracked and even turned off? Or are we heading for a future that's rebuilt on things of real, tangible value and personal freedom? The crazy thing is, the outcome isn't written in stone. It's a choice, and it's a choice we are all about to make.